What's up, everybody? Welcome to my Season 13 Rank 1 Viktor guide. First things first, let's talk about who I am. I decided to make this video because I recently hit Grandmaster with Viktor with a 71% win rate, and I got rank 1 on League of Graphs for the best Viktor NA. On onetricks.gg, I'm also rank 2. I'm right behind the Viktor legend himself. So this is my video to kind of celebrate hitting rank 1, and I hope that I can teach you guys some things that I've learned about Viktor on the way. We're going to hop into Viktor's identity. We're going to start with some theory stuff, then we're going to talk about runes, builds, and spell order, and then we're actually going to hop onto the Rift and talk about lane phase plans and how we approach the mid game, and then we're going to end with some common mistakes we see. Viktor's identity. What does this champion do? What is he all about? Now, if you guys don't know me, I'm originally a tryndamere and Aery player. That's what I hit high elo on the first time up in Grandmaster, and I just picked up Viktor at the end of last season. At the end of season 12, and I struggled with him. You know, I played him most of split 1, but this season I really picked him up. So I have a fresh take on Viktor. I didn't play him back when he had his hex core item. I know a lot of the old school Viktor players are really fond of that. I didn't play him back in the olden days. I only know him how he is today. And how he is today, he is a lane dominant. He has the tools to crush every lane in the 1v1. However, he doesn't skirmish well. He doesn't move throughout the map well. So he's very good in mid lane, but he's bad when you pull him out away from mid lane. And he's very good at carrying late game team fights. He's a late game team fight carry. So what makes a good Viktor game? What stats are we looking for? What key points are we looking for? Well, we're looking to be up CS in our lane because we have the tools to get CS safely. We have the tools to poke out our opponent when they get CS. We have the tools, we have the range to just dominate that 1v1 lane phase part. We want to stay high income, right? We want to consistently keep our income high. So high CS, don't die, right? If you die, you fall behind the curve. Your opponent gets higher income than you. You lose XP. You don't get to turn into that late game monster. And in that late game, we're looking for the top damage. If you want to be a Viktor carry and you're trying to carry your way up the ranks with him, you got to be top damage every game you're trying to win on him. So high CS, high gold, high damage. That's what makes a really good Viktor game. That's what Viktor is all about. The way he does that is mostly through his range. Viktor Laser has more range and pressure potential over like every spell in the game. He has more range than Syndra and Orianna. I mean, Syndra QE might be able to get you, but Viktor Laser is much easier to hit. All of the burst mages, Annie, Aery, Vex, whatever. He's just got so much more consistent poke on these guys. So that's what we're going to really utilize today. So that's what Viktor's all about to me. Let's hop in and talk about some runes. Okay, so the first thing about Viktor's runes is he has quite a few options, and you can take the different options with the different builds. So I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 different main rune pages today. Try them out in different matchups. Of course, I'll talk about my preferences here, but make sure, these are just my preferences. What you like, if you like a certain rune page in a certain matchup, or if you want a one trick, maybe first strike, especially in different elos and stuff, that might work for you. So the first rune page and the rune page that I take the vast majority of my games, this is going to be Aery. And secondary, I really like light blue, inspiration, and futures market plus cosmic insight. So let's talk a little bit about this rune page. Aery's great. Viktor is a champion where you have incredibly strong auto attacks with the Q, you have the auto reset, you have the shields, you can tank an auto attack. And you're just throwing out lasers on repeat. So if you're able to throw out Qs and throw out Es and keep hitting these people, slowly chip away at them, Aery really fits that identity. And of course, we take mana flow because we really need kind of a lot of mana. More mana means more lasers, means more poke. Again, fits our identity here. Transcendence. Now this rune scales so well. This is probably like the best minor rune on Viktor, and it doesn't seem like it would be at first. And we're going to come back to this. So Transcendence is very good. This is a must take. Now, in this last page here, if I'm going Aery, I'll tend to take Scorch because I'm a very lane dominant player. Like I said, I understand Viktor as he is a big lane bully. You can win and crush every lane. I'm going to take Scorch so I can be up 100 CS. So I can solo kill you. So I can make you go back over and over and over again. Gathering Storm can be okay in much later games, but if I were to go scaling runes, I'd rather just go first strike. So if I'm going the aggressive runes, I'm going the aggressive runes. Now I'm going to go Scorch. Get a lot of value every Q proc, every E proc here. The main page, by the way, there's not a lot to change. It's mostly, you got to take these runes. Maybe you can take Gathering Storm, but I certainly will never recommend it. The secondary runes are up for interpretation a little bit. Even in the light blue tree, a lot of people like free boots. A lot of people like biscuits. Cosmic Insight is pretty much a must take. It's really nice to have more flashes, more teleports, more ghosts, whatever you're going to take on a champion like Viktor. Because Viktor is incredibly immobile. His only like uh-oh button is his flash button. His only oh no button is flash. And more teleports means more aggression. You can cheese out more farm. You can trade more with more teleports. So this just feels really nice. Adds to your scaling, adds to your safety. For the secondary rune, you have some options. The beauty of Futures Market, and I've talked about this in other videos, is you can take Futures Market, start Monocrystal, and you can get Lost Chapter as early as wave 5. So if you last it well, even with the Futures Market nerfs that we got last patch, if you last it well, you can still get Lost Chapter in wave 5. Even if you're not going Sapphire Crystal Star and you're playing a little bit more normal, just being up 200 gold when you want to, especially with TP, is really strong. You're going to get your Mythic 2-3 waves before your opponent. You're going to get Lost Chapter 1 or 2 waves before your opponent. And that's something that I really like a lot. Free Boots feels great. Free Boots scale well because they give you free movement speed and they let you get to your Mythic faster. So sometimes I'll bounce between Futures Market and Free Boots depending on the pace of the game. The slower the game is, the more likely I am to take Free Boots. The faster the game, the faster I want Lost Chapter, the more likely I am to take Futures Market. Free Boots, the scaling movement speed feels really good for team fights, right? You can be utilizing this to make sure you're really 1v9 carrying. So if you know you can get to late game unscathed, Free Boots feel good. Biscuits, this is something that historically a lot of mages have taken. I have never taken Biscuits on Viktor. I hate Biscuits. I think if you take Biscuits on Viktor, it's a crutch for poor laning. You should not get hit on Viktor. You have the range, you have the shield from the Q, you have the W even to negate pretty much every trait somebody's going to put on you. If you have the need for Biscuits, for the sustain, for the health, you're trolling lane. If you need the mana, you're probably not backing enough. So that's my take on Biscuits. I think they're horrible. There are some better players than me who do take them though. Of course, like pro players and whatnot. So do with that as you will. I will personally never take them though. We've seen some other weird things in this tree, but that's the main one. The other option you have is taking Resolve secondary, going Shield Bash, and Bone Plating. That seems a little weird, right? These are tank runes, right? Well, Shield Bash gives you extra damage on your Q, and Bone Plating, obviously, if you do end up getting hit, helps a ton. Just negates so much of that damage. So this is the most aggressive rune page you can take. I will take this rune page if I'm playing into like a very high tempo mage that I know I need to attack very heavily. The example that comes to mind is Zoe. Right? If I'm playing against Zoe, I want that Bone Plating just in case I get smacked with a Q. Now, you probably shouldn't, but the Shield Bash damage is also going to help with keeping her in lane. If I can keep Zoe in lane, I will outscale her. I will team fight better than her. So I'm doing everything I can to attack her health pool. So these are kind of the Aery options. Now for the minor runes, I'll always take attack speed, adaptive force, and then either armor or magic resist, whatever your lane opponent is taking, or whatever damage they deal. So for Zoe, this would be my rune page. If I was playing into another control mage, our rune page would probably look something like this. If I'm playing into an assassin, kind of depends if you feel like you need bone plating or not. So these rune pages also depend on team comp and game pacing. If my team plays very like aggressive early game, I have a Jarvan jungle, I have a Pyke support, I'm going to want to take very early game runes. So I'm going to take Aery and then, you know, whatever I feel is right for the matchup plus the game. If the enemy team has a Lee Sin, has a Zoe, like I said, has a Pyke, again, I'm going to feel the need to keep up so they don't just run me over. I'm going to take Aery. I'm going to take something like this. So the other most common rune page for Viktor and the rune page that I take the second most would be First Strike. First Strike, pretty much always, you're going to have this for your primary. First Strike, Free Boots, Futures Market, Cosmic Insight. And secondary, we pretty much need Monoflow Band. Now, I go in between two options in dark blue here. Like I said earlier, Transcendence is a must take. It scales so well. You get so many lasers that ability haste is necessary. And in team fights later on, you just laser, take down, laser, and it's amazing. So you actually go Transcendence here, not Gathering Storm if you're planning on scaling. Unfortunately, the AP that Gathering Storm gives is just too little too late. I know a lot of ADCs and even some AD top laners take Gathering Storm, but for us AP champions, especially on Viktor, where ability haste is so necessary to get those lasers down, the Gathering Storm comes online way too late, and it doesn't give enough value when it does actually come online. So, have to take Transcendence. The other thing I'll do sometimes, if I'm trying to be aggressive with First Strike, and I think maybe I can kill you with First Strike, sometimes I'll take Scorch. I've been doing this less often these days, but it's something that I did a lot, especially when I was at Diamond and lower Masters climbing through, just killing people with First Strike. It's an absolute blast, and you will mentally destroy your opponent if you kill him with First Strike in lane. So those are my 2 favorite rune pages. Again, I'll take First Strike when the game is slower. So if I have a Karthus jungle, Shyvana jungle, something that's just going to permafarm, and the enemy jungle, maybe they have a Shyvana, something that I'm not going to have to worry about early, so I know my lane's going to be safer. If my opponent isn't going to roam all over the place, like if I'm playing against Syndra is a matchup I like First Strike into, because I can always proc First Strike into her, and she can't really proc it into me. And she can't leave. Like, she's not very good at roaming. So I'm going to take First Strike, and I'm just going to outscale her. So these are the 3 main rune pages. If we go back to blue, sometimes you'll see Comet. Comet over Aery. I don't like Comet. I believe that Viktor has very high auto attack range and very good Aery proc potential with the Q. The Q range is even bigger than your auto attack range. So I think Aery is pretty much always more value. The one time that I take Comet is into a champion like Xerath, where I know I'm never going to be able to Q him, and I'm never going to be able to auto attack him. Also, First Strike is hard to proc into him. So, not going to proc First Strike. I want to build Liandry's, which Aery is great for. First Strike isn't so good for. And I'm never auto attacking him. That's when I'll go Comet. It's very, very rare. And if you don't like Comet, I would never go it. If you do like Comet though, it's okay in some of the longer range matchups. Small caveat for the runes, you will see some other really crazy runes like Electrocute or Fleet Footwork into things like, you know, maybe top lane Viktor or into things like Yasuo. These are things that I personally have never done. I've tried Electrocute and I've tried Fleet once or twice, but they're things that I don't have experience in. I don't like them. I think that you could win every matchup with Aery. I think that you can win a lot of matchups with First Strike. That's what I'm going to take. That's what I prefer. If you do really like Fleet, or there's a pro player you like seeing, like taking Electrocute, they're definitely okay. All right, so that's runes. Let's move on to builds. Okay, so for builds, there are 2 primary builds. The main difference is the mythic you go. You can either go Liandry's or you can go Luden's, and then you go into some optional items. And we're going to have a long conversation about when you would do all these different things, when you'll get these situational items, and when you'll do weird stuff. The main point is Luden's is for front-loaded burst damage. So if you have First Strike, Luden's matches that identity a lot. If I'm going First Strike, I will tend to go Luden's. And Luden's is great for burst style teams. So if you have a pick jungler, like an assassin who you know you're just going to one-shot people with, maybe it's Lee Sin, maybe it's Rek'Sai, maybe it's Elise, and you want to just run around and one-shot people with them, Luden's is great. If they have a really squishy team, they're all really like, you can take a person out of a fight from one laser, Luden's is great. Liandry's, this item actually does more damage, period. Like, it just does more damage. But it takes longer. So over the course of a fight, you're going to get more lasers from the haste. And the lasers are going to burn because you're going to give it time to burn. But it's not as easy to one-shot somebody. So you'll go Liandry's where you're going to play slower team fights, where the fights are going to last a little bit longer, where your opponent builds health. Liandry's is also the health counter. So if you're playing against a Vladimir or any tank mid lane for whatever reason, or if they have a Scion and nobody to deal with it, Liandry's will shred those health pools. Because Liandry's just does more damage and it counters health so well, I will build Liandry's most of my games. So my default game plan is Aery rune page, Liandry's build. Of course, I will go Luden's when the situation calls for it, but both are good. After your mythic, you have some options. You have Shadow Flame, Deathcap, and Void Staff. These 3 items are kind of core mage items that you're going to look to get pretty much every game. If the game goes long enough, you're going to have these 3 items most games. So which one do you build first? Most games, Shadow Flame is a great way to get ahead of the curve. What Shadow Flame is, it's a very snowbally item. It has flat magic penetration, and the way that flat magic pen works is when people are lower health, you get a lot of value out of it. So if you can get Shadow Flame early, when people are below 1,000 health, you get 20 flat magic pen. Add that on top of your Sorc shoes, and you're basically doing true damage to people if you can get this while people are still level 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever. Later, the later the game goes on, the more that people scale and the more tanky that people are, this item gets worse and worse and worse. If the enemy team is building lots of magic resist, or if I'm super behind, I will skip Shadow Flame. This is something that I tell a lot of my lower elo clients where the games are longer and people are tankier. Skip Shadow Flame if you're not going to snowball with it. It's very snowbally. It's a very timing based item. So if you're ahead, if you're snowballing, use it to stay ahead and to keep snowballing. However, if you're behind, skip it. Go right to Death Cap. And after Death Cap, go right to Void Staff if you want damage items and they have magic resist. Or go to some of these optional items. An example build will just be Liandry's, Shadow Flame, Death Cap, Void Staff. And that is going to be like the most damage you could do into a heavy AP team. If you're behind, maybe go Liandry's right into Death Cap. Now for boots, Sorc shoes are the default. If that's enough for you, just build Sorc shoes every game. However, if you watch pro play or you watch higher level games, sometimes you'll see mages buy Ionian boots. It's like, well, when do I do that? Ionian boots are kind of similar to Shadow Flame in that they're a snowball item. So sometimes you go back with an awkward amount of gold and Ionian boots is the only thing you can buy. In that case, if you can get those early, it's a really good early spike. You're going to get tons of lasers, you're going to get tons of ults. It's also pretty good with Ludens because it makes Ludens come up faster and you just pop people with the lasers, right? If I'm going Ludens and I can afford them, Lucidity boots are great. If I'm just poor and I need a spike, maybe Dragon's coming up and this is the only thing I can buy before the Dragon fight, I'll just buy them and keep them. Otherwise, Sorc shoes are the default. Sometimes Merc Treads is the play. Now, Merc Treads is not something I put on here, but this is for my real gamers. If you want to get a little bit spicy, you can buy Merc Treads into heavy AP teams. Let's say they have AP in mid and jungle, and they have some heavy CC. So maybe you're playing against like Aery, Elise. If you build Merc Treads, they're both useless to you. You're under pretty much no threat to them, and it's just like, GG easy. So Merc Treads, situationally, are amazing. It's something to think about. Now, let's say that you skip Shadow Flame and you don't want to build Void Staff because they have almost no AP. What do you buy? What are the options? Let's think. You pretty much need, you need one of these big AP items. However, Zhonya's is very good. This gives us haste, which is great for lasers. And of course, we're very immobile and squishy. So especially against dive comps, maybe you're playing against Zed, maybe you're playing against Hecarim or Jarvan, Nocturne, people who want to dive on you, Zhonya's is a must buy. I buy Zhonya's all the time. It's amazing. It almost belongs up here in core because in a lot of your games, you're going to get Zhonya's. Of course, if you can snowball with a damage item, it's better. Or if you're behind, you don't really want to buy Zhonya's because if you do no damage and you buy Zhonya's, now you just do no damage while you're Zhonya's. And it's like, it doesn't actually help, right? So if you're behind, don't buy Zhonya's. But if you're ahead or you're even and they have an aggressive comp, Zhonya's is must buy. Other items here, of course, Banshees. It's good into maybe they have an Aery or a Lux you're trying to avoid Qs from or whatever it might be. You guys know that stuff. Cosmic Drive. This also gives 100 AP, just like Shadow Flame. It's one of the highest AP items in the game. If I'm going my Liandry's build and I'm playing to teamfight carry, Cosmic Drive helps teamfight carrying a lot because of that movement speed. So that's when I'll buy this item. Ludens, it's kind of like the Cosmic Drive of Luden. Lichbane is kind of like the Cosmic Drive for Ludens. The reason that is, it's a little bit less AP, so it's a little bit less damage. However, it still gives you the movement speed, and it gives you the Spellblade passive. So if you go Ludens Lichbane, boom, you're one-shotting people. Boom, you're one-shotting people. You laser Q auto them, boom, they're just gone. So it's a very front-loaded item. A Ludens example build would be Ludens, Shadow Flame, Lichbane. Ludens, Shadow Flame, Death Cap, Lichbane. Oof, and you are just gonna one-shot kids, right? So that's when that's good. It's for front-loaded damage. It's a little bit less damage than Cosmic. It's a little bit less sustain than Cosmic. Cosmic will do you better the longer the fights go, but it's great front-loaded damage. Of course, Morello, you generally don't want to buy Morello out. Even with the added magic pen, it's not that much. It's less than Shadow Flame. It's less than your boots. So just buy the orb and sit on it in games where you have to. If they have Warwick, Soraka, these really heavy healers, buy an orb, sit on it. Orb synergizes anti-heal orb. What's it called? Oblivion orb. Morello. They both synergize very well with Liandry's because it will tick off of every Liandry stick. So that's something to think about. If they have a very sustainy comp, Liandry's with your orb is going to feel great. But if they only have Soraka healing, maybe you just go Luden's Shadow Flame Lichbane. You just one-shot the Soraka with a laser, and it's like, good luck healing, you know? So that's like the main build philosophy. Definitely my default is Liandry's. I'm actually going to open my op.gg right now, just as an example. Okay, here we are. I've had a rough past week, but you can see in my last games, Ionian Boots, Liandry's, Shadow Flame. This one is Liandry's, Shadow Flame, Mage Eyes. I forgot to put Mage Eyes in there, of course. I buy Darksteel in lane all the time. In the lane phase, plan, we will talk about that a little bit more. And if you have 10 stacks on your Darksteel, it's great to buy. This game was a Liandry's Shadow Flame Banshees game. This game was a Liandry's Deathcap Void Staff game. I felt like I didn't need to snowball with the Shadow Flame, so I just skipped it. Said, we're going to go Deathcap Void Staff. Deathcap Void Staff at 3 items is better than Shadow Flame when whatever 3rd item, generally speaking. So those are some, my builds. They mix up a lot based off what we talked about today, but that's my general philosophy. Okay, coming back into it. The last niche build that I'll give you guys is Crown Lichbane. Crown Lichbane used to be a lot more popular, and with the crown changes, maybe it is going to be more popular. The basic idea behind it is it's very similar to Luden's with that front-loaded one-shot, except it's extra good into like assassins and stuff. Because against the assassins, you don't need the damage from Luden's, but you do need the shield so you don't get one-shot while you're casting E. In games where I'm behind, actually, I think I have one in my match history where I went crown. Yeah, this one here. I got really far behind into the LeBlanc, so I ended up going Crown, Lichbane, Shadow Flame into the LeBlanc. I was no longer getting one-shot by LeBlanc, by Kayn, but I was able to one-shot them, or not quite one-shot, but I had that burst damage potential. That put me back in the game. These items are cheap. They're effective. They kept me safe. This is a unique option. Again, very niche, but try it out in some games you think it's good. You may end up liking it a lot. Just like the runes, there's some other really niche builds. This is the main stuff I'm building. Sometimes people build Roa and Seraphs. I've tried that stuff a couple of times. I absolutely hate it. I think this is the main build philosophy that I follow right now. But again, that's just my opinion. It's my play style. So the last thing let's talk about is the abilities you max. So we're going to hop into practice tool here. Okay, before we get into the game and talk about spells, let's actually have a quick conversation about summoner spells. Now, TP is the most aggressive spell you can take for lane phase. That's not Ignite. So I like to take TP. I already told you guys I'm a very lane phase orientated player. I use TP for lane phase advantages. I will trade lots with somebody, I'll TP, and I'll trade lots with them again. And they're going to run out of health before I do. So I like TP. Other honorable mentions, Ghost is great for late game carrying. It's something that's definitely worth trying. This is my second favorite summoner for sure. It's not that good early game, but when you get to the mid game and the late game team fights, it's amazing. Exhaust is okay if you select assassins like naming Katarina. It's not, I just wouldn't though. I would take TP, I'd play a little bit more standard, but something that maybe works for you. Heal, again, works in very specific matchups, but once again, I don't like it. I take TP anyways. And Ignite, I know there's a Viktor player who goes Electrocute, Ignite right now, and that's something that works for him. Didn't work for me at all. So I go TP always. Ghost is an honorable mention. The other ones have been done, so if they work for you, great. They do not work for me. Just go ahead and make sure we got our runes. We'll go something like this, my most standard page. And let's have a quick look at what abilities we max. All right, so now we're in lane phase. We're gonna start talking about spells to level up, and then we're gonna get into lane phase stuff. So Viktor is a champion where, laser's the main ability. Of course, when you can put points in ult, you do, but you mostly want to put points into laser. However, we start Q. We start Q because at level 1, who gets push and who wins trades is pretty much up to whoever auto attacks better. And you can use Q to walk into people's minion waves, negate some of the minion damage from the Q shield or negate an auto attack, and then you get an auto attack reset because you Q and you auto attack and that auto attack comes out quickly. So you can hit people with 2 auto attacks while they only get 1 auto attack that goes into your shield. So Viktor is so strong level 1 with Q. I start Q every single matchup without question. At level 2, go laser. Obviously, we can start adding in our laser poke. Level 3, I actually go laser again. Now, I do it at level 3 again because rank 1 laser doesn't feel too hot. When you're level 2 and you only have 1 point in laser, you don't want to be spamming laser. That's how you run out of mana. You want to play it a little bit slower. Don't run yourself out of mana. Wait till level 3. Of course, if you have mana flow up and it's a super free laser, take it, but don't do it too much. You put a point into E. Now, at this point, this is where a lot of Viktor mains do different stuff. Some Viktor players will level up W at level 4. Some will wait till level 8. And I've seen everything in between, sometimes even a little bit later. Me personally, I believe in nice, simple playing so that you can, maybe take it to other champions if you need. I go Q, 2 points into E, and I'll level up W at level 4 every game. I believe W is a very powerful spell. It's good for wave manipulation. It's good for buying yourself space to get out of sticky situations. So I'll go Q, 2 points in E, then W at level 4, and then I just max E when I can, and then Q, and then W. Now for the glorious evolution evolves, I always evolve E first for the upgraded laser. Then I always evolve Q second. Q evolve is super underrated. People don't realize how powerful it is to gain that movement speed on the Q. And then I'll evolve W last. A couple days ago, I had somebody ask me if it was ever worth evolving W before Q. And I said, nope, never. You should always, always, always evolve Q. It's just so powerful to have that movement speed yourself, especially as such an immobile mage. So that's the evolves. That's the spell maxing. Now, let's start to talk about some lane phase stuff. So our general lane phase plan, level 1, when we get into lane and we only have a point into Q, is to use our Q to auto attack this guy and take a massive trade while they can only auto attack with you back. So, and they auto attack your shield, so you get tons of health. So you want to auto attack the wave as much as you can, create push, Q auto your opponent, keep pushing that way, hit level 2 first, poke them down with Qs and Es, and then crash either 2 or 3, depending on the matchup, depending on what you like to do. For the rest of lane, there's this concept called mage fencing. This is the most important concept for trading on a control mage. It's the concept of 2 things. 1, you need to understand how important your cooldowns are, right? When your cooldowns are up, you want to leverage them to gain the most you can. 2, we have more range than everybody. We're not like, you don't have to get hit as Viktor. So mage fencing on Viktor, when our E and our Q are up, and let me turn off auto refresh cooldowns, we want to step up as far as we can. So let's say that this dummy is Annie. In the Viktor versus Annie matchup, you should never get hit by an Annie Q. Unless she flashes on you, there is no excuse for getting hit by an Annie Q. Unless you kill her. So Annie Q range maybe comes out to, I don't know, right outside of where I'm standing, like right around here. So when my E is up, I'm going to move up as far as I can, right outside of that range, and I'm going to hold my spells. When she goes in to get a last hit, that's when I'm going to drop a Q, and then I'm going to click away. If she keeps going forward, I'm going to drop a laser, and I'm going to click away. And that's the key. Holding your spell until they come last hit or until they try to come trade with you. And after every attack input, you put a movement input backwards. So Q, click away, laser, keep clicking away. And that's how you're going to maximize your range. When your cooldowns are down, you stay further back. As they come up, you come up as far as you can again. You wait, you hold, you hold. She wants a last hit, Q, E, walk away. Wait, wait. Q's coming back up so I can come a little bit further up. E's up now. Now I sit here and I wait. Oh, she's trying to Q me. I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to laser her. Right? She could never Q me. So that's the main trade pattern in lane. It's this idea called mage fencing. Step 1, wait for your spells to come up. Step 2, step up as far as you can. Step 3, hold your spells. Wait for the opponent to do something. Maybe they're stepping up to get a minion. Maybe they're stepping up to trade with you. That's when you're going to start with Q. Click back. Use your empowered auto attack if you can. You can't, it's fine. Then drop your laser and keep walking away. And then wait. And then rinse and repeat. That is what I like to call mage fencing. It is the most important lane phase thing. The most common mistake I see in lane phase on Victors is we'll walk forward and we'll shoot laser and we'll just like stand in their face. It's like, you're gonna get hit by Q, right? Or people will walk forward while they're casting laser. The best advantage that we have with our death ray is that we can cast it while moving. Every other spell in the game, you have to like stop to cast, right? Even rumble ults, like just random, like every spell, you stop to cast it. Our Q is that way, right? You have to stop to cast it. But when we're walking away, can still laser, doesn't stop us. Doesn't stop us at all, right? And I'll show you, I'll put one movement input for the laser, never stopped once. So use that to your advantage. Make sure we're not getting hit. Now, depending on the matchup, it's going to change where you want the wave. But generally speaking, our goal is to CS well and keep people in lane. So again, if this was Annie, I'm going to make sure that I'm CSing perfectly and that I'm not missing any lasers. I'm making sure to laser her whenever she's coming up for a minion. I'm making sure to hit my Qs when I can so that her health pool gets so low she can't leave. We also have the wave control advantage on most mages. So think about, where can I put the wave where I can use my range and stay safest? If I'm playing against Annie, I probably want the wave in the middle. If it's in the middle, I can still poke her and be relatively safe. Of course, if it's in the middle, you need good vision, right? I'm just gonna put a ward here, like that's a really good ward. And you could just lean down here, laser, walk away, never get hit. If you freeze against Annie and you have the wave more in this area, the issue is sometimes they can just leave, right? If your jungle's on this crab or on this herald or on this dragon, she'll just leave and she won't care. Where if you're more in the middle and she's more back here, it's a lot harder for her to have access to the river. She has to take your whole combo first. If you're playing against another mage or somebody you want to interact a lot with, maybe it's Vladimir or Vigar, that's when you freeze. So I like the wave generally somewhere either from the middle all the way to my side. This is where I like it. Us control mages, we don't like to be on the enemy side. If I'm up here, I'm scared, right? Because I can get ganked from the support, from the top lane, from the jungle. I have no tool to get away other than maybe a W and maybe a flash once every 5 minutes or so. So generally, keep the wave in the middle, keep the wave on your side. Look to do that mage fencing stuff. And generally, don't try to leave lane. We don't want to roam that much. We don't want to fight. We need to get to our mythic. We need to get fully evolved. We need to be 9, 10 CS per minute. That's how we're going to carry games. We're going to carry games in the late game. So sometimes your team's going to want you to leave and you're going to have to say, sorry team, I really can't, but I'll be able to carry you later if you just hang in there and don't leave. Let me see if I'm missing anything else about the lane phase. There are some matchups where you actually do want to leave a little bit more. Those are going to be the hyperscalers like Vladimir and Aurelion Sol, Kassadin. These champions, around level 6, they start to beat us in lane. They're one of the few champions that outscale us and kind of out 1v1 us in lane. And against those guys, we'll leave, we'll try to roam, we'll fight at dragons early a little bit more. But generally speaking, keep the wave here, do the mage fencing stuff, and stay high CS. And that's the goal through lane phase. Attack the enemy's health pool so they can't leave. All right, talking a little bit more about mid game. You know, let's say we go back, we get some money, we got our mythic. Let's go Andrews. I think that's my most common mythic. Maybe we're halfway to Shadow Flame. In the mid game here, our goal is to take front to back fights. What I mean by front to back fights is you got to pick the tankiest person on your team, and that's the person you're following. So if we're taking a fight at Dragon, and our tankiest person is, you know, it spawns some enemy dummies. Let's say their team is down here. They got one guy here, they got two guys here, and we have our Olaf or Zach or Mundo, whatever it is here. Our job to team fight is to always play on we call it a front to back. And what that basically means is you're playing on one line. The line here goes from up here down like this. So the person you're going to hit, it's just whoever's hitting your front line. So in this situation, I can never go past my tank. That means the only person I can hit is their front line. That sucks, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit back here and I'm just going to boom, boom, boom. Especially with Liandry's and these more kind of slow-paced items, I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna, you know, if he tries to come at me, I'm gonna kite back, whatever, and that's how I'm gonna get my damage. That's how I'm gonna carry these team fights. As I shred this guy down, then I can have access to their backline. But of course, I'll need my buddy to be in front of me. I'm not going for their backline without my buddy being in front of me. And then I can play like this. So, for the most part, you play front to back, you stay behind your front line, and you just attack whatever you can reach. You need to prioritize staying alive over target selection. Target selection doesn't really exist for us. We are condemned to attack whatever is given to us. We don't get to pick what we attack generally. At the end of team fights, where your front line's in their face, like way up here, now you can decide between these 3 targets what you want to hit. But the most important thing is we stay safe and we're not getting hit. Just like in lane phase, we're not getting hit. Same thing in team fights. You don't want to get hit. So that's how we're going to take fights. We don't want to take fights in the jungle here. Because if we come to the jungle, it's very hard to play front to back because you don't really know where the line of the fight is. You know, you might think it looks like this, and then you got somebody coming over this wall, or their team's coming in behind you like this, right? And now it's like, shoot. So generally, you want to fight in wide open spaces. You want to go through mid. You want to go through river. You want to generally avoid these jungle, these choke points, you know, fighting around here. This stuff is scary. Sometimes you have to because of the game, but generally you don't want to. Now, late game macro on Viktor is pretty simple. It's actually very similar to playing ADC. There's 2 main ways I break it down. I basically break it down into farm time and play time. You know, very creative names, I know. But basically, play time is anytime your team wants to take a fight. Maybe Herald is up, maybe Dragon's up, maybe Baron is up, whatever. Maybe they're sieging mid to end the game. If there's a fight happening, you need to be there. And what does that mean? That means you have to be mid lane with them, or maybe they're top lanes, and maybe we're up here with our team instead. But you guys are going to say, well, JS, I thought we have to be high CS per minute. I thought we have to be getting minions. How am I supposed to get minions? I'm going to be sharing. Doesn't matter. If it's playtime, your job is to carry, right? We have 2 jobs. 1 is to be high gold. 2, to do high damage. Playtime is the time where we do high damage. We don't care about getting gold as much. That's where we're going to win. That's where we're going to get our objectives. That's where we're going to break our towers. Of course, the other time is farm time. That's when there isn't an objective up. Your team doesn't want to fight. Your team's not on tempo. Then you're going to go wherever you can to get farm. Maybe it's mid lane. Maybe it's a side lane with TP. Whatever. Now, because we're a team fight carry, you can never TP to fights. If you are TPing to a fight, you are late to that fight, and it's a mistake. So, generally speaking, TP, like I said earlier, I use it for the lane phase aggression. I use it so maybe I can buy some more farm in the side lane and then TP so I can be there to the fight early. But I'm never going to TP to a fight that already started. That means you're late. So make sure if you are going to TP early to a fight and make sure you are at the fights during playtime. That's probably the biggest macro mistake I see with Viktor players is, they'll be in the side lane. They'll be chilling. They got their team fighting mid. They got like everybody. And then you see an engage, and then we're going to be like, oh, we'll TP. And it's like, it's too late. If an engage happens, it is too late. You have to be here when your whole team's here so you can help them siege, you can help them fight, and whatnot. Okay, so that's the general game plan on Viktor, lane phase through late game. I have tons of videos on specific matchups and example games, so make sure you guys check those out if you want to learn more. Let's talk about some drills to learn to really get good at Viktor here. So the first skill as Viktor you need to get comfortable at is hitting max range lasers. So what you're going to do is you're going to normal cast your laser. Maybe you have to click it if you have smart cast bound. You're going to click it and you're going to come out. You're going to click the edge of the circle and you're going to see how far away you can get from this dummy. And it's about here. And now you're just going to take some time just lasering that dummy from this range, trying to hit it as much as you can. And if you're really at the edge and you're new to Viktor, you will miss a lot of these, and that's okay. The point is to get the feeling down. When you're doing lasers, I highly recommend keeping your camera centered. If you keep your camera centered, you'll always know your laser range, right? Because if I laser him from inside this circle, Viktor just casts it. If I try to laser him from outside the circle, Viktor's gonna run up and cast it, and that's bad, right? I want lasers to come out instantly so my character doesn't stop moving after I laser. Hold spacebar, whatever you do to lock your camera, and sit here and just get the feel for max range lasers down. And of course, it's important to practice from both directions. So, you know, maybe spawn a dummy on the other side and do the exact same thing. Practice kiting left and right. Practice kiting back and forth. Oh my goodness, I missed this one like a million times. I know what I need to practice. I need to practice from this direction. See, this is what happens sometimes when people do drills. If you only drill one direction, like me, you get one direction favored. And now all of a sudden, I can't play lane when I'm playing red side, you know. So make sure you're practicing in both directions. That's the first drill. The second drill goes hand in hand with what we talked about earlier with mage fencing, where in lane, we want to hold our spells and we want to kite away. So we're going to start. We're going to pretend the champion is some mid laner. Pick your favorite mid laner. Again, let's use the example of Annie. And we're going to stand at roughly where you think the outside of Annie's range is for her Q. So maybe it's here-ish. I'm going to stand here. And this drill, I'm just going to walk away and laser. I'm going to make sure I'm walking away when I laser. So I'm going to be standing. I'm going to pretend she E's at me. I'll walk away and laser. You want to be very comfortable clicking away and lasering while you're clicking. For this drill, it's helpful to think about your laser as like a flick, where you go click and then you flick. You click away and you flick at the person you're trying to get. Right? It's click and flick, click and flick, click and flick. And this will help with spacing people just a lot, right? You'll dodge a lot of spells, you'll bait out a lot of spells by doing it this way. Now, let's see. The third drill that you want to do is actually a Q drill. For your Q, there's this weird mechanic where the Q in animation is like a really long time. So if you Q an auto attack, the auto attack comes out pretty slow because this animation takes forever. If you put a movement input after the animation, it actually gets a lot more crisp. So you go Q, little movement auto, or a little movement. Doesn't have to be a big one, just a little one just to cancel the animation. You see my character's barely moving, but just enough. And the Q auto comes out a heck of a lot quicker than if you just Q auto. Q auto. It's real slow, but if you Q click auto, it's crisper. You get much more kiting potential. It comes out much quicker, and that will help you when you Q auto and then run away, right? And then get that final laser in. And that's the wrap up drill. The wrap up drill is going to be the Q auto, laser away, right? Q auto, run away, laser. Q auto, and of course I mean Q click auto. Q click auto, run away. So those are the main drills. That's the general lane phase plan for Viktor. It's the general mid to late game plan. I have tons of videos. I have 2 videos specifically called How to Dominate Lane as a Control Mage, which will help you talk more about lane phase. I have How to Play Mid Game Macro as a Control Mage, and I have example VOD reviews of Viktor's on my channel. Also have a How to Win at Viktor video, which shows me playing Viktor from all the way down in silver, all the way up to diamond, talking about some of the things that I think about and I do as I play Viktor, and what I would recommend people playing in those Elos to do. So I will have those all linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching this guide. Make sure you guys join the Discord if you want to get pinged for other stuff like this. If you made it to this part of the video, comment for me. Drop me, just say 1 hour. If you comment 1 hour, I will know you guys made it to the end of this video. If that's very long, I know it won't quite be an hour, but it sure felt like many hours recording this. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night. Peace, peace.